Good morning, everyone. My name is Tracey Patterson. I'm the Chief Program Officer at Code for America. And as many of you are probably aware, tax credits are one of the most powerful tools we have to reduce poverty and to bring relief to low and middle income households. And so the IRS is working to make it easier for people to file their taxes and to receive the tax benefits with human-centered technology. And I'm really excited to have Natasha on stage with me today, who's an expert on the matter. So let me introduce Natasha Sarin, Associate Professor at Yale Law School. Natasha also served at the United States Treasury Department, where she was the Deputy Assistant Secretary to Economic Policy, and then Counselor to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Her work has focused on narrowing the gap between the taxes owed by the American public and those collected by the Internal Revenue Service. So thank you for being here, Natasha.
Thank you so much for having me.
So as you well know, the IRS just released a report yesterday on the prospect of building a free direct file tool. What's your view? What's your view on this report? What do you anticipate the IRS will do, and how much of a priority should this be?
Well, first of all, I'm so glad that people applauded because, as a tax nerd, I have to say, this is a truly exciting moment for tax administration. It is just hard to explain to all of you it's my enthusiasm about this project and how meaningful it is going to be for the American taxpayer. If you compare how our tax system works to other countries, our tax system is super complicated, so it's not exactly apples to apples. But in Sweden, in Estonia, people can pay their taxes, fulfill their civic responsibility by answering a text message on their phone. In this country today, it takes people, on average, 12 hours and $140 to file their taxes. That is for resources that are, especially for communities where these resources are so pivotal and so important. What also happens is the costs of being involved and integrated into the tax system dissuade people from getting access to all of the benefits to which they're entitled in a way that is really both inequitable and problematic. So what I was so excited to see in this report, and I was first really excited, I was in government at the time when the Inflation Reduction Act was signed into law, and it was really exciting to even have the legislation that called for this report, and for Chairman Wyden and Senator Warren and many other advocates of direct file to really say that this is an important area for the IRS to spend time on and to really study. What I was incredibly excited to see in the report and then to see announced yesterday with respect to a pilot on direct file is really a commitment to prioritizing making it easier and cheaper for the American people to file their taxes and get access to the benefits and credits to which they're entitled to. I think, and I know we're going to get to talk about this morning, this is an operational challenge, and you all are experts in exactly this. We are asking an IRS to, at the same time that it's upgrading 1960s technological infrastructure, to build a whole new system that allows people to have the capacity to be able to file directly with the government. I think there is a lot of potential here. There's also a lot of challenge, and it's just a really exciting time. So I'm thrilled to see it and witness it.
Thank you. And as you mentioned, it takes the average American over 12 hours and more than $100 to file taxes. And I'm sure everyone in here can relate with filing your taxes probably not being the funnest thing you've done this year. And so Code for America has done a lot of work to make tax filing easier, to think about how to simplify it, to make it human-centered, and reduce complexities. But I'm wondering what you think the IRS should learn about what is going to be the most meaningful types of changes. What's really going to be the changes that help the American public? And what are the big picture goals that the IRS should be working towards?
Yeah, so you started to see pieces of it. I haven't gotten through all 106 pages of the IRS's direct file report that was released yesterday, but I'm really excited to do so. But you start to see pieces of it in the report itself. The IRS surveyed people and asked them, would you like the IRS to develop or the government to develop the capacity to file directly? 72% of Americans said yes. So you are seeing sort of concretely what the IRS is engaged with is trying to build directly to taxpayer needs and trying to serve the American people. And you see this also in the IRS's strategic plan that was released recently, where sort of a central tenet of the plan is they want to meet taxpayers where they are. So what that means is being able to provide service to taxpayers at all levels. It means that if you want to go in person and get taxpayer assistance at a taxpayer assistance center, the IRS will be there for you. If you want to get service on the phones, last year before this Inflation Reduction Act funding, the IRS was able to answer less than 15% of phone calls that it received. This year, the IRS was able to answer 87% in 1 year of phone calls that it received. Next year, the IRS is going to roll out a pilot for direct file thanks to these Inflation Reduction Act resources. So I just have to say, like, the IRS has been interested, you all, I'm sure know this, but it's worth noting, the IRS has been interested in building the technological infrastructure that could support something like free federal e-file for decades. They have been talking about developing the technology for real-time tax processing for years. What is different about this moment and so critical to understand is now we have given the agency the tools that it needs to do this work. And what you are starting to see concretely is the fact that they are doing it. And what you are starting to see concretely is the fact that they are going to build something. It is going to be responsive and iterative to what taxpayers need in this space. And it's going to make a serious and concrete difference in people's lives in a way that I'm so excited to witness.
I love that. We should clap for that. And, you know, I think it's also no secret to mention that as far as government agencies go, the IRS has weathered a lot of criticism. But we really need to acknowledge how much progress they've made and the important strides over the past few years in modernizing technology and processes. And there's going to be even more opportunities for modernization and engaging in new partnerships through the Inflation Reduction Act. So what are your thoughts on this moment of transformation, this inflection point for the IRS, and how can civic technologists, like everyone here, engage in this work?
So that's such a great question, and I have many responses. One is, you started from, I had a chance to work closely when I was in government with colleagues at the IRS, and a thing that they would say to me is the IRS is never going to win any popularity contests. And kind of that's okay. We're the tax guy. Who's going to like the tax collector? On the other hand, so I get that, I understand that's where we are sort of politically. But on the other hand, and you start to see it again in the strategic plan, and you see it in the focus on this work about how do we help taxpayers, how do we serve taxpayers, how do we meet them where they are, the IRS is thinking about a fundamentally different model with respect to how tax administration works. And the fundamentally different model is this. When we think of accuracy, when we think of tax compliance, historically, and I'm an academic who has done this work, so it's me doing it with many others, we think about complying with your tax obligations. What is new about the way the IRS is thinking at this moment is they are thinking about accuracy on both sides of the ledger. So to be accurate, what they are thinking about is making sure you get access to the benefits and credits that you're entitled to in the same way that we make sure those at the top of the distribution who today aren't paying their fair share do. And that is also worth clapping for. That is a pretty transformative way of thinking about their role. And it's a really important way to think about their role. The IRS is the largest administrator of federal benefits in the government. During the pandemic, it dispersed $1.5 trillion in critical lifelines to American families. So all that is to say that I think that the agency is prioritizing this work. The way that we can help them be successful is kind of twofold. One, if you look at their strategic plan, they have 200 projects that they are going to do as they build the IRS of the future over the course of the next decade. The challenge that Commissioner Werfel is going to face in some sense is the challenge of prioritization and sequencing, because you can't do everything all at once. And so, but you also can't kind of shut down the IRS for a while and rebuild your technology and create the infrastructure to take in federal e-file and to be able to do much more outreach with respect to credits and benefits uptake, because the tax system needs to continue to run. So you have to figure out how to build a new plane, a 21st century tax administrator, at the same time as you're flying the existing plane. And that is a deep challenge. It is one where technology and technological progress and technological implementation is really at the forefront of the agency's ability to do any of this work. So I'm really excited to see technologists from within government, from the USDS. I'm really excited to, for those of you who are interested, I'm like in my academic life now an active recruiter for the IRS. So I think that there is a lot of space for expertise to be well leveraged on some of these opportunities, because it is like the single most I'm biased, but like the single most exciting place that I could imagine being a part of a technological transformation that is going to change the lives of every American household and every business, because they touch them every year. That's what's happening at the IRS today, and it is just thrilling.
It is definitely worth applauding for. I know we are just thrilled that the Direct File tool pilot is going to be available next year. As Natasha said, there's going to be a number of operational challenges to work through and prioritize. We at Code for America just announced yesterday that we're going to be working actively this year to see how we might make seamless state filing available in some states in order to support users of the federal tool. And we are just so thrilled to see so many different individuals, agencies, and organizations coming together to support the success for the American people. So thank you, Natasha, and thank you all.
Thank you all.